Hey there YouTube fans, AC Productions here, and today I'm going to be showing you on how to change your chain, your rear sprocket and your front sprocket. As you can see on my chain, it's already really loose. It's already been stretched out. As you can see, no matter how many times I tighten it, it just doesn't want to tighten. So today we're going to be changing it out, and I have around 13,000 miles on my bike, so this is still a factory chain. Alright, so if you guys still have your chain guard here, you're going to have to remove it. As you can see, I already removed my rear fender thing that was over here, so I had to remove all that so we could get access to the chain. And then you're also going to need to remove your front cover. As you can see, I have my friend Vern here from our last video of how to do the tires. So I'm over at his place. He's helping me out with the chain because he has all the proper tools and equipment to do so. So I'll be still showing you step by step on what to do. Also, I'll be showing you all the tools needed for the job. Alright, so as you can see, here's how it looks like on the inside of the front cover. Alright, to remove this front sprocket, you're going to need a 30mm socket to remove the front. Okay, now it's very important when you're removing the socket that you have it in gear, because if not, you're just going to be spinning the rear tire. Okay, so the next tool you're going to need is this grinder. So you could grind down one of these links, so we could use the chain breaker to pop the little link off. And it doesn't matter which one you grind out, just make sure you grind down one of them. That way you can use a chain breaker, and then it'll just push this little pin out, and then you're able to take the chain right off. Also, another thing you're going to need is a rear bike stand to hold the bike leveled. So all you're doing is just grinding down that little rivet like I was telling you earlier. So that's all he's doing, just trying to grind it down to make it easier for the chain tool to break out the link. If you don't do this step, your chances are you may damage your link breaking tool. Also, if you don't have a grinding tool like this, you could also use a Dremel with a sanding wheel or cutting wheel to grind down that little pin. Alright, so this is how the chain breaking tool looks like. Now you just want to put it on your chain and then just use your tools to start pushing the pin out. You
gotta have the right pin combination.
So he says that you also have to have the right pin combination to be able to press the pin out successfully. So when doing the procedure, it's a good idea to have an open end ratcheting wrench because it helps on, you know, turning on the bolt so you could start pushing the pin out. So pretty much you want to keep turning your tool until you see the pin come out from the other end over here on this side. So as you see the pin come out from that side, you know that the link the pin has come out from the link. Alright guys, as you can see, there's the pin and it started coming out on the other side, and it just comes right out. So there it is. So now the chain has been broken, or the link has come out. Now we're going to undo the tool and then take out the chain. Alright, so there you go guys. So after you take that pin out, now you just pop the chain up and out, and it just comes off completely. And you can just go ahead and pull it out from behind. Yeah. Alright, so there it is. Now that you guys have your chain off, now it's up to you what you want to do with the chain. You can just throw it away or recycle it or whatever, or you could even make a fidget spinner off from it. After you take the chain off, don't forget then you just slide the front sprocket right off, so it should just come out easily. Yep. So after you remove that, the next thing will be to remove the rear tire so we can get the rear sprocket off. Now the reason that we're removing the sprockets off of the bike is because the chain matches with the sprocket, and putting a brand new chain to a used sprocket, it's going to wear down. It's going to wear down uneven, and it's not going to be good. So you always want to make sure you get a matching set with the sprocket and the chain. And same thing goes if you were to replace the sprockets. You don't want to put brand new sprockets with the used chain. So definitely don't do that. Just make sure guys that you always buy an even set, especially if possible get OEM. There's other chains and sprockets out there that are called quick acceleration ones. Not really recommend it unless you have a 600 or 1000 cc bikes. For the 300s, I would say just stick with the OEM. Alright, so when putting back your front sprocket, you always want to make sure that the sprocket with the letters are facing towards you. So when you put it on, because all the sprockets are going to have some kind of lettering on it, so just make sure that it's facing towards you. So you have it facing the other way, it's not going to work out. So just make sure when you put it on, have the letters facing towards you, and you're good to go. And then put the axle nut back on there, and then go ahead and tighten. Well, don't tighten it down yet, because we still need to take out the rear sprocket, and then put the chain on there, and then you can tighten down. This will be the last thing you do, you tightening down this part.
Yep.
Alright guys, so here is the rear sprocket, and as you can see, there is some lettering and markings on here, so you want to make sure that that's pointed towards you. As you see on the other side, there is no marking, so you want to make sure that's facing the wheel, and the letters are facing towards you when you install the sprocket on the rear tire. Alright guys, once you remove the chain from the box, you're going to see that it comes with this little link set that you're going to have to put onto the chain, and then also the chain over there, where it's all nice and lubricated inside the bag. Also, there's going to be a little packet of lubricant over here on this side too, so just make sure you're careful when cutting the bag off, because you don't want to cut the lubricant and then as you're pulling the thing out, you're going to squeeze all the lubricant inside the small little bag, and you definitely don't want that. Alright, so this is a rivet type master link, and this, you want to make sure that that's what you have on your bike. You definitely don't want to go on with that little clip on there, because this would be more secure, I would say, getting the rivet type. Also, you're going to notice on this master link that it has 4 little rubber O-rings. One goes to each side, so when you take this off, make sure that you have one rubber O-ring on each side. So you're going to take all these out, and you're going to put one on this side, this side, this side, and this side, and you're going to put it onto the chain. But we'll show you that once we get to that part. Alright, now to remove the rear axle nut, it's going to be a 22mm on this side, and I believe on this side is a 19mm. But I'm sure you probably could get away with just doing one side. Just need a long breaker bar to undo the screw or the bolt. Now when you start taking out the axle bolt from that side, don't worry about your chain adjusters popping out.
Well, if the chain was in place,
yeah,
the wheel would, hold it. So what I'm going to have to do, push the wheel back up, put the chain on, and see where we're at.
Alright, so
don't have the adjusters, the chain over the adjusters, so that's why that's happening.
Now if you guys are having trouble pushing the axle out from the wheel, you could use a rubber hammer to hit on it, and it should pop right out. Don't use anything that's like a regular hammer, because you can flange out the axle, and then you won't be able to put the screw back on or the bolt back on. So make sure that you use a rubber or a piece of wood and then a hammer to hit it out. But for 9 times out of 10, it should come out fairly easy. Now here's one good method that you could use. You could use your foot underneath the wheel to hold the wheel in place while you take out the axle nut. And then once you take the axle nut out, you could just move the tire away from the bike.
That's my ninja move.
And then vice versa. Once you put the wheel back on, you could use your foot to lift up the tire so you can put the axle nut through it. Alright, now that we got the wheel off, next what we're going to do is we're going to be removing this metal brackets. If you guys know what this metal bracket is used for, because this puzzle me, it's puzzling what it is for. It doesn't do much of anything. So if you guys know what this metal bracket is, please comment below. Let me know what it is, because I tried looking on Google and I couldn't find what the main purpose of this thing is for. So anyway, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to be removing this metal bracket, and it is a 14mm socket to remove each one of these bolts.
I have no idea what this cage does.
So it looks like it comes in pieces, so that's one piece that's there.
These are like washers.
Yeah, we're using an air gun to remove these for a little press.
I mean, you could use a ratchet, but
yeah, a ratchet or any other tool. We're using an air gun because it just speeds up the process. So as you can see, now it just comes off. Now we're just left with that part, and then that part comes off. And yeah, again, guys, if you could please comment below if you know what this metal bracket does.
There's 2 parts to this.
Yeah. So once you get that off, just put it off to the side, and then you should be able to just remove the rear sprocket. It should come off pretty easy. So there is our rear sprocket there, our old one. Alright, so there is our old sprocket, and here is our new sprocket. At this point, it's up to you if you guys want to get a rag and just kind of clean this area, since it is kind of hard to get to with the whole sprocket and everything on there. So it's up to you guys if you want to clean it. If not, just go ahead and put everything else back. Alright, so now we're putting our new sprocket on there. Just make sure once you put it on, you press it firmly all the way up until it's seated properly. And then you can just go ahead and put your bolts back on. Alright guys, so now that we're putting our new sprocket in, there's no need to put that metal cage that we had taken out. I'm guessing that just kind of pertains to the stock one. So with the new one, we're just going to be putting the bolts on.
In a crisscross pattern, just like you would do a car wheel.
So like Vern said, when you're tightening down the bolts, you want to make sure you do it in a crisscross pattern. You definitely don't want to go one by one, because then it'll be uneven. So crisscross pattern, and then tighten each one. Okay, now installation is going to be the opposite of the way you remove the wheel. Just going to go ahead and roll it back under there, and then we're going to probably use our feet to lift up the wheel a little bit so we can slide the axle through the wheel. And then we're going to go ahead and tighten it down from the other side. So pretty much you just want to get that the axle started, and then line up your wheel, and like I said, use your feet, and then just lift up the wheel slightly until it lines up with the hole, and then just go ahead and push the rod right through. Now guys, don't forget that you also have your brake discs, your rear brakes on the other side, so you want to make sure that these line up also, because you don't want to push that whole axle through and then forget that you also have your brakes, so that also lines up with the axle rod. So just make sure that you line up everything and then slide the rod right through the wheel. Okay, once you get the axle through it, you want to go ahead and you want to tighten down the bolts, but don't tighten them all the way. You just want to make sure that they're snug for now.
New chain.
Alright, so now that we got the chain out of the bag, now you want to go ahead and you want to start putting it onto the rear sprocket, and then just start putting it forward until you get to the front sprocket. So make sure it's straight, and do it as we're doing it here. And spin the back wheel too as you're doing this to help the chain get to the front sprocket. Once you get on there, make sure you're careful when you're doing this, because you definitely don't want to pinch your fingers, because that'll be a bad day. So just make sure you're very careful when putting the sprocket, the chain through the sprocket, and turning the wheel. So as you do this, you want to make sure you put it until it looks like this, where it has one link missing, because that's going to be the master link where we're going to install onto the chain to connect them together. Okay, so at this point we're going to go ahead and we're going to adjust the chain adjusters, and we're going to move the wheel just a little bit more forward, because over the times as I was riding and I needed to do a wheel chain adjustment, we were doing in my other video where I show you how to adjust the chain, we kept on moving the wheel back to get more tension on the chain so it's not slapping around. So now that we're doing a new chain and sprocket, now we need to reset, and we need to put the wheel back a little bit to put the chain on there.
A little bit closer.
Okay, now that we got the wheel a little bit closer, now this is how it's supposed to look like.
That's with the OEM chain.
This is with the OEM chain. I'll get a little bit focused there. So as you can see right over there, see with my finger, so right there, that's where the master link's going to go. So you want to make sure that your chain is like this, so you can put the master link through it. And don't forget to make sure that you put those little rubber spacers, one on each side. So here's with my arrows, I'm showing you on what size to put the rubber washers. Alright, so here is the master link. As you can see, we put one rubber spacer on each side of those links. O-rings. So you want to make sure that you also put a little bit of lubricant that came in the package on those O-rings. Okay, so make sure when you put that master link, you put it from inside of the wheel and then facing out towards you, because that little plate that we're going to rivet is going to be on the outside of the wheel. Alright, so there's the grease, and then we put the rubber O-rings on after you put the grease on. So grease, rubber O-rings, now we're going to put the link plate, which is right there. We're going to put it on there, and then we're going to press it in using the tool that's right there. Okay, once you have the link plate on there, you can go ahead and grab a set of pliers, and all you do is you want to make sure that the plate guard is already on those rivet pins before we use the tool to flange out the rivet and make it permanent. So I want to just give it a good press, make sure they're on there good. Now this is before pressing. As you can see, the pins, they actually have a little hole inside. So you see a little hole. When we put the tool in there, it's going to flange out that hole, making it look like the little rivets on the other link. You know, it'll flatten out the head of it, and that's how it'll stay in place.
Because this is actually meant for a 530 chain.
So when doing this, guys, you want to make sure you do one rivet at a time. So as you do each rivet, you want to do a little bit at a time. So do a few turns on the top, then a few turns on the bottom, and keep going until they're completely riveted.
Until the chain plate is pressed, and then you rivet it. Yep.
Okay, now we got the chain plate pressed on. As you can see, because the pins are sticking out a little bit. So you want to make sure that the pins stick out a little bit from the plate, because now we're going to use the rivet tool, and we're going to rivet and kind of like mushroom out that pin so it could be pressed against the plate. So almost like these ones over here, it's going to be the same thing, and then that's how you rivet on the master link. So make sure it looks like this before you guys do anything, because if it doesn't look like this, don't do it, because you're going to mess up the master link. Okay, now to do the riveting part, your tool is going to come with a few different one of these pins. So depending on the size of the pin, you got to make sure you match it with the correct tool, and then you're going to put this into your, I'm going to use it as an example, but you're going to put this into your tool, and this is going to go into the side of the pin and flange it out. So just make sure you guys are aware of that. Okay, after you get it riveted, this is how it should look like. As you can see, the pin has been flared out, and by being flared out, it's actually going to hold this plate in place. So once you get it looking like this, you're all set.
Only things left is to adjust the chain and tighten the countershaft sprocket.
Alright guys, now we're tightening up the chain adjusters, and as you can see in the back where the axle is, you're going to see these markings right there. So you want to make sure that the markings on this side are going to match with the markings on the other side. So make sure that you count those lines, and then make sure you count the same exact lines on the other side. And then once you're done doing that, you go ahead and you can tighten down both of them.
I try to have at least an inch to an inch and a half or a little bit more slack in the chain, and give it room to break in, and then go back after about 1,000 miles, 500 to 1,000 miles, and then reset the adjustment.
Okay, once you already adjusted your chain adjustments and you already did the chain adjusters, then you want to go ahead and you want to tighten down the axle nut. Okay, so now that we're done with these parts, now the only thing we have left to do would be to tighten down the front sprocket nut. So you want to make sure that you're still in gear when you're doing this, and then just go ahead and use your tool to tighten it down all the way. Alright, so now that we've already tightened down our front sprocket nut, now what you want to do is you want to put it in the neutral gear, and then go ahead and spin the tire, make sure everything is seated properly. Make sure you're not feeling any clicking or any sounds like that. If you are, you're going to have to go back and do some adjustments. But everything's good. Now you notice that the chain came with all this grease. What you want to do is just grab a towel and just kind of wipe the grease off. You know, just make sure you do it carefully. You still want to leave some grease on there because that's going to keep the chain lubricated, but just to get some of the grease off so it doesn't attract dirt. So just grab your towel, spin your wheel, do it carefully, and then just wipe some of that grease off the chain. Then next would be is to put our sprocket cover. You want to go ahead and put that back on. Okay, after you put your front sprocket cover, next what you want to do is you want to put your rear chain guard. If you have this one, or if you have your stock original one, you want to make sure you install that back on. And then that pretty much concludes the video. Hopefully you found this video helpful. If you did, please hit that like button. If you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and subscribe. And don't forget to hit the notification button. That way you get a notification every time I post a video. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. And thank you for watching.